Welcome back to the Ambition Over Fear portal. I'm Atlas Opia, and I help people expand their interdimensional knowledge. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing how to move into a flow state when you're shifting realities. The truth is, every time you make a decision that is different from the decisions you have made in the past, you split off into a new parallel reality. Every time you choose to act in a more empowering way than yesterday or the month before, you're shifting off into a new parallel reality, because the universe is a supercomputer and your soul is a doorway into that computer, and you're truly having an individualistic experience as the universe through your soul. But the key here is to remember that it is less about trying to obtain something and more about letting go of the idea that you have to create something, that you have to manifest something. Now, although manifestation is our soul's ability as a piece of consciousness to create more pieces of consciousness, thinking of it as creating may give you an indication that you have to grab a bunch of resources together and find out how it could work in a symbiotic fashion to build something greater. In reality, it is simply aligning with a pattern of energy that already exists in the universe, because the moment your consciousness has had a thought of what it would be like to live in a certain country or have a certain partner or have a certain job, your entire connection to the quantum field opens up with that data. And what happens is your soul creates a seed energy, right? So with that decision you make, that information is planted in your third eye, and in an alternate dimension, one where your soul pulls from in a way to decide the energetic blueprint it is going to create matter from. It's almost as if there is a line of energy that comes from one decision or one thought or one idea of a way you could live or a version of yourself. There is a moment when your soul creates an entire psychic timeline from the point you make a decision into onward. And if you can move into a flow state, your mind, which is programmed to recycle the neurological connections of the past, because your mind is a program made up of data that has been gathered from your previous years. So once you can take off the hat of needing to decide what is your next step, how are you going to get to where you want to get to, you can move into the feminine, which is allowing the energy from the unknown timeline to come in, because your cellular system is going to be approached with something new. Now, the interesting thing is you have micro timelines and macro timelines, and that's step one. Macro timelines are the huge life changes, the life changes that really alter the way you perceive yourself and the world around you. These life changes are the ones that take a certain amount of recovery and acclimation so you can merge into that data stream, right? The micro timelines are also equally as important, but those are the tiny decisions you make throughout your day to align with that macro timeline. Okay? Now, step two is understanding that The flow state is you remembering that there is no past, present, or future. And the past, present, and future is a useful mechanism that our interdimensional soul uses to acclimate to this specific matrix. But as we're moving in and out of different matrices, which is an encapsulation of a unique type of energy that is set to a pattern that then creates something solid and everlasting. It is a system. So every dimension is a different matrix. So when you're going and you're moving into your 5D matrix, which is you embodying the resonance of your soul to a point where you realize that all you need to do is take time to let go of any idea that reality works a certain way, and realize that your mind is simply a tool. It is a program. Now you have to set the program to the awareness you're tapping into through your higher self, through your interdimensional consciousness. And that can come from realizing that everything is energy manifested into matter, and every timeline is simply a different storyline that you can embody as a soul during this reincarnation. Now, feel into that idea. When is a time when you have made a change so large that it almost felt as if your body was floating? It felt as if you weren't connected to your body as much. It felt as if you were detached from what you previously knew as reality. And that leads us into step 3. Your idea of what reality is a connection of the energetic blueprint you're choosing to merge into Earth. It is a way that you're going to experience this matrix. It is removing yourself from your body and your ego, going up your soul, seeing the entire Earth, and remembering that you are the entire planet. You are the entire universe. So feel into what you would like to create and become that energy. And then you see kind of this room where there is 100 yous, 100 bodies of you, and each body represents a timeline. Each body in this visualization of the room full of your body standing up, each one of those is a unique way that you are interacting with this matrix, a pattern of energy and action and emotion that you are embodying for a specific amount of time. So moving into flow state and shifting into that different reality is realizing that your higher dimensional energy can only come into fruition in this third dimensional matrix by placing that higher frequency energy into a container that can allow that higher frequency energy to slow down enough to match the frequency of where it's going. So the energy in your thoughts go into your body and code your DNA and cells. So in your reality shifting, you're moving into the version of you in a parallel reality that is having a large enough change in living and experience that you truly have to move your consciousness from this body to that body. Okay? Feel into that reality more, that it is less about creating and more about plugging in to the avatar you want to experience, plugging into the version of this matrix you would like to experience. Now, moving on to step 4, when you're shifting realities, the flow state is going to allow you to detach from your previous association to this matrix. Now, when you jump into a new parallel reality, you're still going to be faced with the old parallel realities or the old stories of who you are, because you're going to have an energetic residue left over from being in those versions of yourself in the prior years to this point. And at that point, you don't ignore the old parts of you coming up. You heal them, you face them, you take the energy, and you can use it as a resource. And you find out, okay, I have this characteristic in shadow in an old timeline. Okay, how can I take this understanding and move it into resources and inertia for this new timeline? And the reality is you realize that instead of removing the shadow, you merge into it and understand how to find use in those characteristics. So, using me as an example, if I have dealt with a lot of feelings of unworthiness and not being wanted in an old timeline, then I can feel into that, give that timeline space to exist, because I probably didn't give it room to breathe in an organic fashion. I didn't give it the validation of life that it needed, because probably when I was going through that shadow in that timeline, I was resentful of it or trying to battle it. So you take a moment to give that version of you space to live. You understand it, you let it breathe. And then, if we're using my example, I go, okay, well, I just have to want myself. I just have to find myself worthy. I have to realize that everything is a projection of me, and if I can find a stronger relationship with myself, then everything else will reverberate towards feeling worthy and wanted by parts of this world. Then I move that feeling, and I find that feeling in that new timeline. I can summon that frequency, and unknowingly it could have came from me healing and transmuting the aspect of energy in that old timeline. So reality shifting in general is moving through the matrix in a fluid manner. It is letting go of the need to be right, because the idea of right and wrong is constructed from your mind, which is a cognitive program of analyzation and interpretation, where you may have thought that something is right or wrong in a particular area of life based on the experiences that I have gone through, where either I have tried to prove something was right and wrong, and there is enough inertia in that justified belief to where it's carrying forward, trying to survive, or there is a lot of experiences that have happened, and the only thing that my mind could summarize as a reason for those things happening is because of the need for something to be right or wrong. So moving into a flow state is really letting go of all judgment. And I don't mean, being so perfectly in tranquility that you can't say anything, humorously. I still believe in having a bit of shadow and light, being, interacting with this world in a way where you're still embodying that inner child, and you're still embodying that way of entertainment where you're able to interact with the world and find fun in what you're observing. I mean the level of neutrality and non-judgment where you're not assuming that one thing is something else. You're allowing the interdimensional flow of yourself to lead the way. You're tapping into your soul and feeling this vibrating pattern of energy, and you're moving into it, and you're thrusting into it through your third eye, and then you're allowing that to melt and fizzle into this reality. where you're truly just trusting more. You're truly in that state of frequency. Now, I want to thank you guys for joining in on the video. I make videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Definitely subscribe if you would like to understand the mechanics of interdimensional alchemy, the understanding of how to reach energy in different levels of your own consciousness, and how to move energy from one dimension to another depending on the intention you may have in this human body, or the body that you are remembering as a reincarnation you have had as a different dimensional being. And in that space, you can allow yourself to move into the growth. And that's why I offer galactic quantum coaching, to be a guide as you're moving into those spaces of the unknown, to truly merge into your system and find out what is your next step of evolutionary consciousness. How can you interact with your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy in a way that is more calculated and more articulate, that can lead to you bringing in more energy in your body, so you're less, oh, I have this interdimensional self and my body, but I have a hybrid identity. Okay? Hope you guys have a great day. Definitely contact me if you're interested. And until next time, stay in peace and power, and realize that you are more than you give yourself credit for. You have more than you understand in this present moment. And if you feel that level of excitement that the world is here to give you new levels of growth, then keep feeling that and just take your time with it. All right, bye.